All right. Welcome to today's Office Hours. My name is Mark Stepp. I am the Chief Innovation Officer here at Realvolve and your host for today's Office Hours. It's interesting. The last probably 2 weeks, this question has come up. I think what's happening is people are wanting to send more snail mail than before. We went through this transition of everybody sending mail and doing envelopes and all that kind of stuff, and then the internet hit, and now most everybody sends everything either by text message or by email, and that also takes its toll. And I think what is happening is, and this was actually one of the comments, was I want to be unique and actually send some stuff the old-fashioned way. Be that as it may, what I want to do is kind of show a method for doing envelopes and customizing those envelopes, and just kind of see how this flows. Once I go through this part of it, I will give you guys the opportunity just to ask questions about other things as well. But for the first part of this, if you don't mind, let's kind of stick to questions about this. If you do have any questions, just pop up, ask your question, and I'd be happy to answer it during the session. You can text it if you want, but you can just unmute yourself and go from there. So what we're talking about is printing envelopes, and I'm using the envelope number 10, the legal size envelope that most people send things out on. And in this case, it is the non-windowed version of envelopes. Pretty much the only thing you ever get in a windowed envelope is a bill, and we don't want that. We don't want them to get the idea that you're being sent a bill of some sort. We actually want to send something that's personalized and has a little bit of oomph to it. Now, obviously, if you're going to personalize it, I would do it by hand. And if I was going to do it by hand, I might even use a service like Handwritten or something like that, where you can actually print cards that looks handwritten if you're not actually doing it handwritten. But if you want to send out things that are printed, looks good, professional quality, this is certainly a way of doing it. So what we're going to do is use a feature that we've been talking about for the last couple of months, that is our webhooks. So the question is what is a webhook? And for those people that haven't seen any of our previous stuff, a webhook is just a web address, a URL, a website link type thing that pushes data to some place. So this is an example of a webhook. It's just HTTP, so it's just kind of like a regular website, hooks.zapier.com, and it has this bunch of string of numbers and stuff. Means absolutely nothing, but what happens is with this, whenever Realvolve calls this webhook, it's actually sending a packet of data, either contact data, property data, or transaction data, to that address, and then you can do something with it. So it's just a matter of, a webhook is just the ability to send something to this web address. Realvolve itself, we've got our three main databases. We've got a contact database, property, and transaction. Through our workflow process, you can now, through an action, and I'll show you all how this actually works, but you can use this webhook URL. It's something that's given to you through some service, either Zapier or other purposes. And whenever you send through this action to this URL, it sends that packet of data. And it could send it to lots of different things. It could send it to Google Slides, which is what I'm going to show today. We've in the past talked about Delighted, which is a service to be able to get surveys done. You could do Google Docs, Google Sheets, Slack, Trello. There's just an unlimited number of services that are out there that you can use now through Realvolve and send data to those services for whatever need that you've got. And that's what the kind of the cool thing is here. So whenever we're going to create this envelope, this envelope, it's the 9.5 by 4 1/4 basically size. We need to set up some custom settings. So you can go to slides.google.com and you can create your own Google slide. It's free, no charge at all. You can create a new one, or you can use our template. So here's an example of our template. So I just created a little template. I'm going to make these slides available to you. You can click on this link and you can make a copy of this template if you want and be able to use it. But basically what I did is I took that template and I went into the file, page setup. I set my custom size for the size of the paper that I'm printing on, and then I clicked apply. So that gave me this, basically this rectangle of space that I could put stuff in. Then I wanted to go in there and actually create the envelope design that I wanted. So whenever you create a template yourself, it's just going to have a single page. In my case, if you use that link that I'm making available to you guys, I made up 4 different envelope sizes, actually same size, different designs. One of which is just the name and the merge fields for the who I'm sending it to, the mailing name and the address. I put a little image here of the place stamp here. Obviously, you could remove that, but you can go through and you can click on, and actually, let me just pull this over and just kind of show you live here. So here is one that has the basic information. I told it that I wanted to put in some merge fields, and within Google Slides, a merge field is put in using these little braces, and you can just type in some name of some sort, and it will allow you to fill those in whenever we use Zapier to fill those in. But here's one where I just put in maybe some important information, or you can do whatever you want to down here. You could colorize these. You can make them whatever font color, font size, the font name, any of those. If you wanted to add a logo to it, you could certainly do a logo. Make it look however you want. And the nice thing about this, if there's other designs, maybe we can, duplicate a slide here. We can come in here and, add some graphical images, whatever you wanted to on here. And not that you would necessarily want to do this, but you have the ability to, do all kinds of crazy stuff. Maybe you want to send something out for 4th of July and you want to put, a flag on there and some fireworks or something like that. You could certainly do that. Make it look however you want to look. So once you've got that set up, it's just a matter of changing all the information, adding your messaging or whatever. Then you've got at least the template that we need in order to do this process. So once you have that template, we can go into Zapier. Now, whenever you go into Zapier, the very first thing that it does is it has this, create your own workflow, and you can put in some basic information. It starts off with just these top 2 fields. So you might want to say, well, I want to connect my app, my Realvolve app, through the webhooks of Zapier. And so you would select Webhooks by Zapier here. And then you can come in here and say, what do I want to do with it? What's the action that I want to do? And you would want to do the Google Slides because we've set up our template in Google Slides. It'll then say, okay, based off of these 2 items being selected, what do you want to happen? And in this case, I want to catch a hook. This is catching that webhook, catching that data from that URL that we've got. And what do we want to do with it? Well, we want to create a presentation or create a slide of some sort from a template. So once you've selected that, you can click on try and it'll take you to it. Once again, I went ahead and created a Zapier template, which has all this for you. So whenever you pull up these slides, you can just click on this. It'll bring up the option so that you can pick the slide, pick your account, and everything's kind of set up. All you have to do is apply your own account setting information. So your own account, your own template, and then everything else is set up. All the merge fields and stuff are all set up. The other option that you would have is, clicking on the Create Zap and doing it manually, which if you did the Create Zap, then you just do it step by step. There's a trigger and then there's an action. It starts with the trigger. It says, okay, how do we want to define this? We're going to start the trigger by using Webhooks by Zapier, and we're doing the catch hook. Whenever we do that catch hook, it knows, hey, there is a web address that they need. They need a webhook address. So Zapier provides that to you. That's this custom webhook URL, and all you need to do is come over here and click on the copy button. And whenever you copy that, it will be put onto your clipboard, and we can put that into our action of an activity. So once you've clicked on copy, we can just click on continue. At this point, what you're going to want to do is go into one of your activities, your actions of the activity to print an envelope. So you'd actually create a new activity, say print envelope number 10, or if you had a different size, put in whatever description that you want there. Down here at the bottom, we're going to do it as an action. So we would click on create an action, and we're going to put in a title of print envelope number 10, or you can just say print or whatever. Whatever's in here is just your description. It doesn't really matter what it says there, but I put in print envelope number 10. And down here at the bottom, we've got 4 actions that can be done automated within an activity. The action in this case is the webhook option. You can close up the send message, close up the other options if any of them are open, but open up the webhook. And right here is where you're going to paste that webhook URL that we got from Zapier. So you just paste it in. At that point, once you've pasted that in there, you can click on the button that says send sample data. And what it does for you is it takes this URL and it sends just a sample to this address so that we can grab the data. So clicking on the send data does a quick option to send that data, and we're off to the races at that point. What you then do is once you've saved that action, that activity in here and saved all the information, you've got your webhook feature turned on within Realvolve. That's all it really takes is just that one action. You then go back to Zapier and you say, okay, now that I've typed it, I've done that piece, I've sent the sample data, I want to test my trigger. So after you've done that send sample data, you click on this test trigger. And what it does then is it says, okay, let's go check to see what data was sent. And then you'll see that there was some data that was actually sent. It doesn't really matter. This is all just sample data. It'll be in that testing, at least lets you know that you received some data. Okay. Then you can click on continue. Now, in this slide, I do have the list of available fields. So if you click on this, it'll open up and show you all the fields that come in from Realvolve. So I've clicked on continue once I've got my test done. I now am going to set up the Google slide. And this is the action part. You've got the trigger, which is the webhook. Now, once it triggers, once it sends data there, it's going to do some kind of action. The action in this case is to create the presentation in Google Slides. And we are going to choose the action here. The app itself was Google Slides. We'd picked that earlier. The action is create presentation from template, which technically we would have done earlier as well, or if you'd selected my template. And we click on continue. Then it says, okay, which Google Slide account do you want me to use? Well, you probably only have one. You can click on here. If you've ever used it, it'll be listed there. If it's not, it'll have you log in and create a new slide account. But you'll pick that slide account and you're good. You just click on continue. Now, this is where the magic happens. This is saying, okay, number one, we're going to create a new document, a new slide from a template. What is the title of this new presentation that you want to do? So what I did was I created in this field here, I just said envelope number 10 for, and then I used the merge field for contact mailing name. So it'd be Joe and Jane Client, okay, whoever that name is that comes in from the contact record. And so this is the Zap that I was just looking at, just creating. Create presentation from template, and I'm going to edit this, set up the action, which is where I'm at. So right here, I've got this envelope for, and then, so this is just plain text right here. And then this is the merge field. Whenever you click into this field, it gives you the option of all the different merge fields that are available. So this is just a full list of all the different data that was sent to that webhook. So you can use any of these pieces in here. I chose to go with the contact mailing name from the merge field, and it just, whenever I clicked on it down here, it put this in at the top here. So it's real simple just to put something in there. The reason why I want to put the person's name in there is because if I print several of these, I may want to know which one is which. This allows it to be personalized and have the information that you need. So the next thing that we need to do is actually choose which template are we printing from, which template are we using to create this new presentation. In this case, I'm using my template called Com10 Business Envelope, which is what we had created here, Com10 Business Envelope. This was the slide that I created. Now, if you're doing this for yourself, you would not have all four of these. You'd probably just have one of them. Otherwise, it's going to print and create multiples of these. Hope that makes sense. I was just using this as different options to show you. If you're doing this for real, I would probably pick one of these, delete the other ones, modify it, and create it however you want. Just have one presentation page in there for that. So you've named the template with a title. You've chosen which template that you want. If you scroll down just a little bit from that same piece there, and let me just show this to you here. So we just did the title, and we just did the presentation. If we slide down just a little bit more, it loads up that presentation and it says, okay, what merge fields do I have in this presentation? And we had created 2 merge fields. And it's whatever's in between the squiggly braces. We've got a mailing name and we've got an address. So if I come over here and I look, there's the mailing name and there's the address. And once again, what we're doing is we're saying, okay, what do we want to fill in to that merge field? So we click in here and we can do a little search for mailing name. We go through the list. We find the merge field that we want. In this case, we would want the contact mailing name. Be careful because we do have like the lender mailing name, because we have a few fields that are linked to that contact. You've got your referred to, your referred by, and your lender fields. Make sure that you're choosing the right merge field if you're doing this yourself and not using the template. If you use the template that I've got, this field is already filled in. You don't have to worry about it at all. So we filled in the 2 fields, and then we click on the continue. We click on continue. At this point, then it's going to give us the ability to test. So it's going to say, okay, let's test this. It'll create a presentation called envelope number 10 for Joe and Jane Client. It's using that merge field and filling in the information. Which presentation is it? It's the Com10 business envelope. Here's a sample of the mailing name field, a sample of the address field, and then we can just click on continue. At this point, then it takes that data, that template, throws the data onto that template, and creates the presentation for you. And again, if you've got logos, you got whatever you want to look like, you can have it look that way. From here, if you go to your Google Drive, and you can actually view the file. If you just go into Google Drive, there would be that envelope number 10 for Joe and Jane Client. You could then go in and open it up, and you can see that all the information then is filled in. And I did it for all 4, But again, you would probably just get rid of the ones that you don't want, or just create one, and then it would just be there available. From here, you could then do a file print. Whenever you do file and then print down here at the bottom, it would give you the sample of what you're going to print, and there's the information. Now, because I did have 3 pages, I chose over here. If you do choose to have multiple versions of the same envelope, you're going to have to go in there and say, okay, which pages do I want to print? Well, I want to custom print page 3, just one copy of it on a COM10 envelope. And then from there, click on the print. So we've got everything set up now to do this on a scaled basis. So anytime I want to print an envelope, that was all kind of the grunt work to get this set up one time. Now, anytime that you print a letter and you print an envelope, you can just create that webhook URL as part of the action, and it sends it out. So in this case, I ran my workflow. I started the workflow on GeoLoco. And Geo, then once I started that activity, I go to complete that envelope number 10. I can just come up here and say, print it. If I did it as an immediate action, it could, send out automatically whenever I run the workflow. No big deal. But in this case, I chose to do it manually. The action in this case is to print the envelope number 10, and then I click on run, and then boom, there it is. So, the different examples of the same envelope document. So that's pretty much it. That's how you create an envelope. That's how you can do it. So if I come over here, so let me just go ahead and let's go to Betty Rubble here. Betty Rubble has an address of 111 South Rock Lane. And let's say as part of some process, I send out my letter and I send out an envelope. It's part of my workflow. So I'm going to start the workflow as just being the print. It's just the one thing. But technically, if this is something that you do on a regular basis, you're going to just have it as part of your normal activities and your workflow. And it's just going to be, hey, this is due today. So I'm just going to create that real quick. So there's the print envelope number 10. Run this. Click on run. So I come to Drive. Should have gotten rid of all this stuff. So here's envelope for Barney and Betty Rubble. So because I use the mailing name, it's in there as their full name. So there's Barney and Betty. If I wanted to, if I had where I was just sending out to the individuals, I could have used first name, last name if I wanted to, whatever you want. But then, here's the different pieces. So if I choose one of these and I want to go ahead and print this, I can click on print. Creates the preview. In this case, because I've got all 4, again, it does all 4 of them. Maybe I just, instead of printing all of them, I just want to print number 4 in this. And I want to print it to my COM10. So that's pretty much it. Anytime that you want to print, and again, it would make it so much easier if you don't have all 4 of those. You just print it and you send it. Now, what I did one more step. One thing that you could do and not even worry about doing this. If you've got a printer that uses AirPrint, meaning you can take this document, whatever it is, an attachment of some sort, and email it to your printer, then you can do that. Within Zapier, you can set up a Zap that will actually take you that one next step. So let me go to Zapier. So what this one does, and this is really basically the exact same process, but it takes it 2 steps more. What I did was I said, okay, once I create that presentation, find that presentation in Google Drive. So there's an action called Find in Google Drive. So it finds the document that I've named. Because I've named it, envelope number 10-4, and then the merge field, it draws that information from my step 2 as my title. So I'm looking for that in my Google Drive. And once it finds it, then I can go over here to the email section and I can email it to my my email address for my printer. So email it to the email address, and then what it does is down here for the attachments, include the file from step 3 that I found, and it just sends it. So that way, in my setup, it actually worked quite well. I just said, go print it with this, and then it actually printed the document straight to the printer. Pretty cool. I didn't have to do any of the steps. Again, you want to make sure that you just have well, you probably want to have a printer dedicated for envelopes if you were doing that, though, because if you didn't have your envelope set up, it could be waiting for an envelope. That would be a challenge there. That was what I wanted to share with you guys. We had gotten, like I said, the last 2 weeks, I'm gotten a handful. There's 5 or 6 people. They're wanting to do the same thing, and it hit me strange. Is like, why are all these people wanting to print envelopes? But in a conversation with one of them, they said, well, everybody's sending email. I want to try something different. So made sense to me, and this is just a way of doing it. I did try doing this within a template, like I said, and within Realvolve, doing it as a template. And because of my printer type, it has to go in portrait, I guess, in my printer. And whenever you try to print a portrait from the create the PDF within Realvolve, it just wasn't doing it right on the COM10. If it wasn't the COM10 envelope, it would print it correctly. It's just because I'm doing an envelope, it didn't like it. So if you have a DeskJet type printer where you put the envelope in length, I guess horizontal, where the long side is actually going in first instead of the short side, then it would probably work just fine. It's just a matter of how your envelopes get printed in your printer.